listening to the Adventuring Party for the third week of April 2020. This week, the party returned to the topic of role-playing online and relate how they've broadened their horizons in the age of COVID-19. The Adventuring Party, discussing tabletop and rail gaming the Irish way.
Welcome to the party. I'm Savage.
I'm Eoin.
I'm Shane.
And I'm Shiv.
Welcome back, folks. It is another week, another adventuring party. This week we are sort of collapsing the timeline. We're going back to a previous episode when we talked about running your game remotely. And since then, I think most of us who are here and most of you who are listening have probably had some experience trying to get a game going online. If you're a role player or maybe want to play board games or even something more complicated like a war game virtually. So having had a few weeks under our belt as players and GMs using some of the tools that are out there, we decided we'd come back to the topic. And I think we've got a few different perspectives now that we've each sort of tried it out for ourselves. Owen, you're going to champion one of the new kids on the block, I believe.
Yes, I'm going to be stumping for Foundry Virtual Tabletop because we tried all three major offerings. We tried Roll20, we tried Fantasy Grounds, and we tried Foundry VTT, and Foundry VTT was easily the best. Also the most expensive, sort of, but I'll talk about that as well.
Right. I'm a novice for running stuff online, but I've been diving into Roll20. I've had a go with some of the different offerings it has, and it is a service that has probably had the widest recognition before the sort of the quarantine, isolation, self-isolating, whatever you want to call it, began. It has had some technical issues, but we're going to talk about what I've found useful about it and what I've discovered since starting to use it in earnest. Shane, you have taken a more of a roll your own approach, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been just diving straight in to my personal, using Discord servers mainly, to both manage information but also to facilitate communication. And I've basically been figuring out how to improv a session together using the bare minimum of facilities. And it's been going okay so far, though there's the challenges of any internet connection at the moment. Also, I've been trying a few different ways of playing board games online, so maybe talk about those as well.
Excellent. So you're our MacGyver for this one. Shiv, you have some experience you started online, didn't you?
Yeah. So I role-played online before I role-played in people's houses, but this was 10, 15 years ago, and most of the role-play was in chat rooms back then. So the idea of having something like Discord as a tool, or some of the much more complicated tools, like the more sophisticated stuff, is actually really intriguing to me, but it's not something I've jumped into yet.
Well, we are in fact recording this over Discord this evening. Our Discord server has been taking off since we launched it earlier this year. Maybe, Shiv, you might end up being our Discord DM if we get a game going on here.
Yeah, I could be sold by this
so,
episode.
Shiv, you are probably going to act as our control and our judge. You'll be able to tell us at the end of this episode who has won at remote gaming for at least for the time. Okay,
I'll keep score.
So let's go back to you, Owen, because you've got an exciting product for us.
I'm kind of running or playing in 4 online sessions a week at the moment, and what we started out doing was I went looking for a way to run my Warhammer session online, and the first time around I just ran it over Discord, and it was a bit rough for everybody. It was very disconnected from what was going on, so I said, okay, I need to find some way of doing this, and I went looking on the Discord for Woofrup, which is known as the Ratcatchers Guild, and they said, yeah, try Foundry. Foundry's really good. And this was a Patreon for Foundry VTT, and they were planning on launching, and they are going to launch in May this year. So what they did was, if you joined the Patreon, paid $5 a month, you got access to the beta of this I tried it out. It was really good, and I paid for a full license as well. A full license is going to cost $50 minus some money for how long you backed for the Patreon. So I think it's about $5 a month off for every full month you backed on the Patreon. So I got in on that. I tried Roll20. I tried Roll20. I tried Fantasy Grounds, and I found that Roll20 was a little too simple in some ways, and the servers got hammered on at busy times. I tried Fantasy Grounds, and the problem we found with that was the player who was trying to host, his net connection was too crap to host for Fantasy Grounds. So instead we moved over to Foundry, and it's great because what Foundry does is it hosts locally on one person's machine. That person does not need to be the GM. Someone else can be the GM. So you just need one license for your whole group. What it does is it starts out as basically literally just a screen, and you can basically put up map up, put scenes up, put other things up, and move your players between them. So okay, let's go into I've got my next scene set up. I click it, I go to the next scene. I've got the dungeon map up there for the below the tunnels of Ubersreich. We go to there. They go to the pub. I click over to the pub. They're in Ubersreich wandering around. I click up the city map. And that's all there. You create their characters in Ubersreich, the basic or characters in Foundry. So they have mods for PF2, for D&D 5th, for Woofrup, and they're mostly community built. So you basically go, okay, I want to create a character online. It's just like editing a character sheet in real life. You enter all your details, and then you can roll within the engine. You don't just type /roll D100 under 50 or whatever. It's literally I click and I roll based on those ones. It's very, very slick. What we found was good was first having character sheets up there was good because you can just refer to it, roll within the setting. The maps were very important because people could look and see, okay, this is what it is. You can also scan pictures out of books or take pictures from your book and post them up there and go, here, look, there's your picture of what you're looking at. Okay, bit of art from the book, clip it out, put it in there, that's what you see. And it gives people something to latch on to. Other stuff you can do in it is you can have a journal. So I created a journal for every one of their quests, effectively. And I went and I basically put in the brief detail of what the quest is about. And then I let the players edit it. I give editing permissions to them. And they can go in and make notes within, effectively, their own Wikipedia inside the game. So they can go, okay, let's click over... What was the hassle of Johann Hoffman about? Okay, here's what we found out so far. We put in our own notes. And it becomes this collaborative tool where they've got their own kind of notes within the software that they can access. So it's a little like a computer game in some ways, but it's also a little like, okay, we see all this stuff, we can do all this stuff, which is great.
Right.
The other thing you can do is when you build the maps, it's just a map. Basically it's a flat plane, everyone can see anything, but you can switch off, put on vision cones so people can only see what they can see. You can adjust how much light they have, how much light they can generate. You can draw in walls, and all of a sudden you can construct a dungeon, and when people are moving around it, they don't see the whole map, they just see what they can see. It puts a fog of war thing on it, and it becomes like a real dungeon crawl. You're sneaking around the corners, oh, I saw a model there, or I saw another token, there's a bad guy ahead, everyone get ready to fight. So it's like really crawling around. So it's been very, very good. Any questions?
Just first of all, I mean, yes, it kind of has all the bells and whistles you'd expect, doesn't it? And it's not relying on a set of central servers, which apparently it turns out is quite the boon. I don't think we really knew exactly how well some of these services are going to run as remote services until we sort of saw the sort of loads they're getting now. As you say, you can put it onto whoever's got the best connection, and that serves a party very well. How would you? So you're both running and playing in it, and how much would you say the quality of the game relies on the expertise of the GM in terms of, or the expertise of players in terms of using the Foundry tabletop?
Because you're all online at the same time, and you can often all see each other's character sheets, you can talk people through a lot of the issues. So we've done a lot of, okay, just drag this over, right, ground, and we're okay. You need a little bit of savvy, but not a lot of savvy.
Yeah.
It's reasonably intuitive once you get in, and one of the things we've done is, myself and the other GMs, we're often kind of online, and we start fiddling around at the same time and go, okay, how do we do this? And the other guys, oh, I did that before, here's how you do that. And there's a kind of a collaborative learning thing going on, and then a sharing of expertise, a kind of collaborative thing where I'm running this week, he's running the other one. I'm like, ooh, you can right click on that and it'll pop that out for you, so you have a different window of that. And it's just, you learn how to do basically some things to kind of keep them, to keep stuff moving forward and make it so that it kind of runs along, and you go, oh, how do I adjust my vision cones, John? Oh, this is how you do it, And so you get a collaborative thing where each person's learning some stuff and passing on advice to everybody else. And it's nice. It's nice.
It has been very handy from that point of view.
Yeah.
Certainly having another player present who is also running or GMing another game, you're often sort of swap little tips and tricks.
So does it have inbuilt chat services?
What we use is Discord instead, because I thought, hey, let's not overburden this. Now, in one of them, one of the people helping to run it was a real network guru, like real life job is network stuff. So he hooked up internal, basically video and audio feeds within VTT itself. And I asked him, oh, how did you do that? And he's like, oh, it was a bit of a pain. And I was like, okay, well, you, sir, you really know what you're doing. If you say, oh, it was a bit of a pain, I'm going to accept that was a bit of a pain and just live with my just my Discord chat. Some people running that find it's a bit rough because of the quality of their net connection, so they just do voice. They switch off the camera. But it depends on the person. So it can be done. It was just we just use Discord for our one, and I'm kind of like, well, that's good, because it means if one starts to fritz out, we know, okay, we're still okay in the chat, or Foundry's bugging out, but the Discord's working grand. So it spreads the load a little bit.
Shane, you have taken a roll your own approach.
Yeah, I've been improvising using my Discord. Even before this, I was getting into the habit of making a Discord channel for each of my games I was running, just to keep people in the loop, and to serve as a sort of central repository for information and records of what we've been doing. So it was just a sort of an alternative to just keeping everything in Google Docs or on notepads, is so that I can have public-facing information, just to remind people of, well, you have this, and this. You were told that, and that.
So let me ask you, how often, because you're trying to bodge together Discord, and are you using something for a map?
Mostly, I'm just using my Google Drive,
right,
and putting links into the chat. Because Discord doesn't really complain too much if you have a lot of channels. It's very easy to just say, this is our maps channel, and the current map is this one, and here's the link, here's the picture, and it's pinned to the top. So even if someone accidentally decides to have a 15-page rant in the channel by mistake, we can still look at it through the pins.
Well, that's clever. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. I was going to ask, have you had a lot of pushback from players who are saying, oh, well, I don't use this service, or I don't have an account on that, or oh, I've got to sign up for this?
Slightly before, when, in the before times, before touching each other was death, I would have had. But in the time since, I haven't had much, people saying, no, I don't want to use Discord. What I have had is, as everyone has, the issues of, oh, we thought we had internet, but we really don't have internet as much as we think we do. In particular, two of my players are relying on mostly okay internet, but it has a habit of dropping the voice about halfway through a sentence and just skipping out on words, and it is very useful that we still have text as a backup, because you do find that sometimes you need to just type something out to make it clearer.
Yeah, it's something about these different channels of communication. So it's something I've had to reflect on running my game. Using Roll20, and I'll talk about that experience a little bit. But in a more general sense, I'm waving my hands right now because I tend to be someone who talks and sort of projects at people, and kind of conveys lots of different sort of nuances with something other than words. And that is a challenge when you're dealing with ropey net connections. I found myself having to describe NPCs' attitudes sort of more than simply convey them with a bit of with ham acting. So it becomes a real issue, yeah, when you've got some people who can get on a video feed or can't, or there's something dropping out due to network connection issues.
Yeah, you end up having this balancing act where you're trying to convey more information than you normally would need to because you don't have the visual cues.
Yeah.
But also you're trying to be succinct because you don't know when someone might have like only hear half your sentence. So the whole we're still in a situation where we have limits on most of what we're doing, and to that extent it sort of forces into a mode of being more efficient with our information control. We have to bring across more information in less words and more clearly in case someone missed it. So it may be time to break out all those terrible accents that you've been swearing off for.
Well, what I have the plus side is that it does drive down the amount of table chatter, because people simply do not want to waste their words or risk sort of talking over something important.
I will say we have found that everyone plays a lot more, and the random chat has been really cut down. So we're actually getting a lot more played in a session. It's you miss the random bollocks, but we do a lot more. And for the record, on my bad accents, I am not racist. I'm just a terrible actor.
So Roll20 has had its ups and downs the last couple of months because there's been this huge surge in demand because of the way it's structured. Like we've talked before about the differences between peer-to-peer hosting and that they're using central servers, and they're charging a pretty penny for the privilege. I have to say they would probably need to up their game very soon, or I suspect they're going to find something of a PR backlash. Presumably all that's really required are beefier servers or more of them. So why am I running into serious disconnect or video lag issues on a Friday night? Now, I surmise that's probably a very popular night for people to play, because it's not anywhere near as bad as reported to me by other players on, say, Monday or Tuesday night. But it's certainly impacting the experience quite negatively. Now, there's lots of other things about Roll20 I like, but they need to up their game there.
Well, the thing is, everyone's resources are sort of being stretched right now. Everyone has demand for extra servers, extra bandwidth, so they might not be at the top of the pile, even with people throwing money at them.
Well, okay. I have very little sympathy for companies. So
how expensive exactly is it? You have like $50 for the Foundry, right? And that's just for the host. Is Roll20 much more than that?
So is $50 a flat fee, Owen?
The Foundry, one person buys a license for $50, and that's it. You have paid up. You have paid everything you're going to pay.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I have to say that is a very attractive proposition, because Roll20 is a monthly subscription. See, there is a free version you can use, and then you have, I believe, so I'm actually piggybacking off a friend's account, so we're learning together as we hot swap into the Roll20 GM's position. You've got to pay for. So it has a lot of tied-in content from D&D that you can pay for to get all of the bells and whistles, the maps, gridded and gridless, player handouts, NPC character sheets, artwork, etc. And on top of that, you are paying for the use of the service itself. I'm just quickly searching here. I believe it's something like free offering, $5 a month offering gets you access to some better stuff and some lighting and line of sight tools, and then there's a $10 a month option, and I'm struggling to remember what it is you get for that.
I think generally speaking, services like this, if you can have a once-off payment, it's very attractive compared to a subscription.
Absolutely. Now, Roll20, I mean, and it's probably the same for Foundry. Roll20 are actively developing their platform. They've just rolled out a new lighting model, which I'd like to, on the subject of lighting and line of sight, I'd like to give some thoughts. But yeah, the new lighting model is seeking to streamline how it works in their engine. Roll20 as an engine, I won't comment on the cost. You'll pay what you're happy with. But as an engine, as something to use, I would, on reflection, liken it to a church organ. If you know which sort of stoppers to pull and which levers to press, you can get amazing things out of it. If you don't, it can sound like a dying cat. It can really crunch, and it can having so many tools at your disposal can cause something of a sort of a stew of difficulties. But when you get it to click, it can click rather well. Now, the thing I'd actually like to reflect on is line of sight, and it's something that you don't really have to think about too much, except in the very abstract when you're playing a tabletop. If you're doing theatre of the mind, it's simply down to you'll ask your GM, well, what can I see? And he'll say, oh, you can see that guy, or maybe he's hiding behind a haybow. When you go to do a lot of on-table play, as I'm used to doing, because I'm what I term a crafting GM, then you do have those line of sight issues, but it's the same as for a war game. You can sort of go, right, well, if we get down to model eye view, you can see through that door, you can see that guy, whatever, that's great. But a player sort of came to me last session, and after we were finished, and he made an observation. He says, Mick, that was a fine game, but I have a bit of a problem that I'm sitting here most of the time in the dark. I said, what do you mean? If I'm outside of a room and I can hear, so obviously, like most of these systems, they emulate a line of sight system. They've got cones of vision, etc., and they've got blocking terrain that stops you from seeing into a room or through a wall or through a door. So once players are in the room and their characters can see what's going on, it's fine. You're describing away what's going on. Any player who might, for reasons of the party being split or they're hanging back to hide or something like that, he said to me it was quite annoying to hear all of this stuff being talked about and to have other players relating what they can see but not being able to see it. Because if you don't have line of sight to something in a tabletop or a virtual tabletop, you're usually just going to see a fog of war or blackness or nothing at all, or maybe just a blank map. And it got me thinking. It's like, yeah, it's much easier to keep people engaged when they can see what's going on. It's the difference between describing what's happening at the peep show and then being inside and seeing the stuff happening yourself. And that's a problem I'm now having to sort of contend with that would not arise from almost any other form of role playing.
So with Foundry, what you can do is you can set it to party vision, where every member of the party can see what every other member of the party can see.
Yeah, and that's probably something I'll use. There's similar tools in all of them. I suppose I was so enamored with the idea of what I could do that I didn't stop to think about the ramifications for players. And this is one that I'm kind of now dwelling on because it is a very different experience. Instead of watching your able barbarian companion hold down that flank while you desperately try and disarm the pit trap in the next room, the spike trap in the next room. Instead, what you're seeing is you've got a spike trap to look at, and the action is happening somewhere else. So yeah, I think party vision is something I'd probably use instead of this thoroughly simulationist line of sight that is actually just taking enjoyment away from the players, for the benefit of being true or real or strict.
I think that's just one of the things we sort of have to accept in this new paradigm, is that because we have so many extra filters between each other, it behooves us all to be more clear with our information, and secrets and intrigue and verisimilitude are secondary concerns now over the play experience, and it may not be appropriate anymore for like NPCs to be extremely coy or have perfect disguises, or for there to be a -3 sight penalty for 10 feet of darkness. It may simply be to sort of brush away the simulation and just give people clear information, just so that, and rather rely on a fog of war, we rely on the fog of the internet essentially to muddy it all up.
Well, that's
I mean, this doesn't sound like new problems to me. I think the fact that some people can be at the center of play and others can be left on the sidelines is an issue that I'm familiar with. But the first thing that jumps to mind when you say somebody can't, like maybe two people can see what's in the room and two people are off in another area, that sounds like a narrative tool that could actually be really fun to play with if you're doing it on purpose. You know, if it sneaks up on you, maybe it's not great, but now that you know it's there, you could use that.
absolutely, and that was the point he was trying to make. It's not that he felt frustrated that he wasn't part of any given action, it's that he couldn't spectate, because he was perfectly happy to sit back and watch the fight unfold. But I mean, I suppose, because I'm terrible for analogies, trying to follow a football match or a Gaelic match, even with Michael in Amurherty, trying to follow that on the radio rather than be able to sit in the stands and see it, is sort of the frustration he was feeling. But absolutely, being able to selectively use that idea that the scout has gone ahead and they're relaying information and you're having to make decisions based on something you're being told rather than can see. I think there's huge potential there as well. I guess I'm going to have to use it. I'm going to have to use the powerful tools that Roll20 has selectively and really think about, is this a situation where I want everybody to be able to see what's going on, or is this a situation where I want to really crunch down on how well you can communicate as a party and sort of figure out fog of war or for sneaking, things like that. I think it'd be really handy there, but not for a general melee where it's more fun to see what everyone's doing even when it's not your turn.
So I have a kind of a question for all of you now. I'm wondering if, when this is all over and touching is no longer death, and we can go to people's houses or to pubs to play our games, will you still use these tools?
Owen?
I might do for some stuff. It depends. The thing is, personally, I think it's going to be about a year before we're back to a year on a good turn of the cards before we're back to normal. So I'm happy to bed down in this for a year, and I'll probably really look forward to getting back to playing in person again. You know, but I don't think it's going to happen for quite some time. So I'm ready for this to be the long run. You know, but yeah, that's yeah, I can see me using it for some stuff. Like, there are people I was thinking of involving who moved away, who live in Sweden and stuff, who, you know, kind of miss playing with us, and we might get them back in that way. So we shall see.
Shane, will your MacGyver bodging survive this current epidemic?
I certainly think the experience in the trenches will help. It helps me learn how to juggle information, and just to be more aware of what information gets lost. I know my players have a big habit of laser focusing onto what's right in front of them, so it sort of helps them and it helps me to be more open and visual with information. As I say, just figuring out how to present it, and to be forgiving of someone who may have forgotten vital information that, you know, their character would know, but just because it's been, you know, 2 weeks of long shifts at the canned beans factory, they may have forgotten the thing that was half mumbled over a dodgy connection, you know. So it certainly helped me to be a bit more understanding. As for using the tools themselves in the future, I certainly think this has helped me become more open to the ability to let's just jump onto Discord and try something. And in fact, that's sort of why we started recording this episode.
Yeah, I think there's aspects of these virtual tabletops that I'd love to use more of. It has made me, it's certainly helped with bookkeeping. It has made me able to run more mechanically interesting and challenging encounters because I don't have to keep track of all the minutiae of so many different NPCs and their abilities, their special powers and recharge rates. I really do like the way that I can plan out a campaign or a session and have it all at my fingertips. I'm having to say, even before the current crisis, I was finding it harder and harder to run a game without a PC to hand, not a PC but a computer to hand, without being able to pull up music or show players an image. So it's been real useful in that respect. I'd like to continue using some form even after this is done, because it has that great advantage of no one has to travel, no one has to have a strict heading home time, so you can be a little more relaxed when you sit down to game. You've got, and you can keep, and all the other players, of course, also have access to things like character journals and Wikipedia and things like that Shane alluded to. I'm desperate to get back to tabletop play, though. I love making things for games. I'm sitting on altars and benches and monuments and all sorts of things that I've been building while we're all in lockdown, and I can't wait to finally get some use out of those. Otherwise, I'm going to start leaving them out for the birds. But yeah, so overall, I think it's been positive to experience this different way of playing, and it's taught me quite a few things about how to organize a session and keep things moving. So yeah, overall, I think I've had a good experience so far, and I'm kind of encouraged by what the next couple of months could bring in terms of polishing my ability with the systems and also tightening up my game in general. So that really does, I think, bring us to the end of this sort of catch-up, roundup on virtual tabletops. If you would like to join in the discussion and maybe pester Shiv to start running a game, you can join us on our Discord server. You'll find a link in the description below. We are available to be commented to or at through SpeakPipe. You can find us on Facebook. We are putting these episodes out on YouTube. You can find us at Libsyn, where the episodes usually go live first. And where else are we, guys? Are we anywhere else? Twitter. You can chase us on Twitter if you so choose. Just because we're isolated doesn't mean we shouldn't be annoying each other as often as possible. So that is it from the adventuring party this week. I've been Savage. I've joined today, or we were joined today. We came together, Shane, Eoin, and Shiv. And until next week, this party's over.
Thanks for listening to the Adventuring Party. You can find show notes and links to things we've mentioned at www.theadventuringparty.net and on our Facebook page. You can leave comments there, or talk to our Twitter account at AdventuringPTY, or you can record a voice message at www.speakpipe.com/theadventuringparty. The host can be contacted directly by email at Shiv, Eoin, Savage, and scar@theadventuringparty.net. If you'd like to be in touch with the party all the time, come join our Discord server, link in the show notes. The Adventuring Party is released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike version 3 license.